Hey everybody. So we're beginning science and we're going to be looking at animals' habitats and how animals interact in their habitats. And I guess the big idea to think about with this is that um, animals live in certain habitats because it helps them survive. Um, some animals can thrive in certain habitats, and the habitats have everything the animals need, like food, water, and shelter that's appropriate for the animal. Um, Other animals struggle in habitats if it's not their natural habitat. So we're going to be looking at some polar bears. I love to study about polar bears, and so let's get started. I want to present my entire screen, and we're going to go through a slideshow. And so I want you to take a moment and just um, look at this polar bear. Um, he's a big animal, and it says habitats. A habitat is a place where an animal lives. So habitats hopefully will provide food, water, and shelter for animals. Now, not every animal can live in any habitat. There's different types of habitats. Some are cold, some are warm, some are wet, some are dry, some are in between, some have a lot of trees, and some don't. Some are mountainous and some are valley or flat areas like grasslands. So let's take a look. The next slide. So it says that animals live in habitats that they can survive in. Certain needs of an animal must be met. For example, animals must be able to eat in their habitat, find shelter, and stay warm or cool. Okay, so if you look at this bear, first thing I noticed is that it's white and it kind of blends in with its surroundings. And I also noticed its big feet. I noticed its fur. Um, it looks like this bear is in a good habitat for it. Okay, you're going to hear me talk about ecosystems. An ecosystem is a place that has several interactions. So when you think about yourself interacting with your friends, that might be talking or playing with them or working together. So interactions is when things work together. So for example, in an ecosystem, living things depend on each other for food. Worms help to eat dead plants, and birds eat the worms. Birds might be eaten by larger birds or even cats. So that's just one example of an interaction that takes place in an ecosystem. That's called a food chain. Okay, so this gives an example. I know Ms. Hubbard's been talking to you all about different places in the world. Um, and you'll forgive me, that Park City looks like I put capital I after city. But anyway, these are examples of different types of ecosystems. Um, so if I look at, I see a lot of different colors. And for example, if I look over at my key and some of this is blurred, I see uh, where it says marine, and that's all the oceans. And maybe up in the Hudson Bay above Canada, maybe down in the Mediterranean Sea, the Gulf of Mexico. All those are examples of marine ecosystems. So I'm assuming that's going to be saltwater. If I look on up, I see where we have fresh water. Okay, I apologize for that. Grasslands, that's what I was looking at. You have grassland ecosystems. You can see some of that in the United States, over here in the Midwestern states, and over in the Western, also part of the United States. Um, you can see where you've got ice ecosystems, and so you can see like up in Greenland, there's a lot of ice caps there. I noticed that the tundra is this color, and the tundra is through Alaska, through Canada, up near the North Pole. You can go over to Northern Asia, where Russia is. All that would be considered the tundra. So we live in Park City. If you look at this, it's the temperate forest. Now, you're also going to hear this called the deciduous forest. So I'm going to refer to it as deciduous forest. So you can see that Park City is in a deciduous forest ecosystem. We'll learn more about what that means. Okay, so this is a polar bear. So which ecosystem do you think he lives in? So kind of look the map over and make your prediction. So I'm thinking that the polar bear, I'm going back to something Miss Hubbard said. You know, we talked about there's an equator that runs to the center of the Earth. And for the most part, it's very warm around the equator. So the further you go north, the further you go south, it's going to get colder. So I'm going to make a prediction that this polar bear probably lives maybe up in the tundra, maybe up in the ice caps or the ice ecosystems. So that's my prediction. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, we've already discussed this, what you pick for your ecosystem. Okay, this is a more detailed image of this polar bear's home. He lives closer to us than you may have thought. So you may want to redo your prediction. Okay, this polar bear's name is Cunning. That's how that is pronounced. I had to look that up and watch a video. So this polar bear's name is Cunning. Cunning actually lives in Louisville, Kentucky. Can you find Louisville on a map? Glasgow, Bowling Green? Okay, so Louisville is right here. You may have been to Louisville, or maybe you've heard of Louisville, but it's the largest city in the state of Kentucky. It is just west of our capital, Frankfort. And this is Glasgow. This is Bowling Green. Park City would be somewhere right in between, probably close to the end in Bowling Green, okay, or maybe up here in this area, maybe below Mammoth Cave. So Kunnick lives really close to us. So if you think about the very first picture that we saw, there was a lot of snow and ice around. We might get some snow during the year, but we don't get that much snow. So I'm kind of curious about where Kunnick lives in Louisville. Okay, so Louisville is not Kunnick's original home. She was born in Alaska's North Slope. So if you look down here, you can see here is a map of the Western Hemisphere, and you can see that this is where Alaska is. So Park City is way down here, or sorry, Louisville is way down here around where my arrow is. And this is where Alaska's North Slope is. Let me tell you a little bit about Kunnick and how she got to Louisville. So I'm going to read something to you. I'm going to paraphrase some of it. So in the summer of 2011, okay, that's about the year that some of you all were born, marked the arrival of an orphaned polar cub found by ConocoPhillips employees in Alaska's North Slope. Now, ConocoPhillips, I believe, is an oil company. So there must be oil. There must be a natural resource in Alaska. And what happened was that the cub was born in January in a snow den her mother dug to protect her from the winter. So her mama dug a den, a snow den, under the ground, and that's where Kunnick stayed. She was spotted in February with her mother and a little brother or sister walking around. And then in late April, she was seen again, but this time she was alone. And so there was a search for the mama. So it said there was an aerial search. That means in the air. So maybe it was a drone, maybe it was a helicopter, but they didn't spot the mother anywhere. So they got really worried about Kunnick. So they decided to, I guess, to contact zoos. And anyway, the Louisville Zoo said we will take this pup, this baby. So anyway, she was flown in an airplane from Anchorage, Alaska, and you can see where Anchorage is. Okay, so maybe I don't know how she went from um, Alaska's North Slope to Anchorage. I don't think she would have driven there. Probably flown from the North Slope down to Anchorage, and then from there was a UPS, the same company that made deliver packages to your house, the brown trucks. They have a lot of airplanes. They flew that cub from Alaska all the way to Louisville, and she was escorted there by directors of the zoo and the veterinarian. They wanted to keep her safe. So she used to live in her natural environment, which would have been the tundra, and she was flown to Louisville, which is a deciduous forest region. Okay, so you can tell this is where the North Slope is, and now she lives way down here close to us. So Kentucky's environment is not like Alaska's North Slope. Our environment is very mild in the winter, and that means that it might get cold, but it doesn't stay cold, really cold for very long, not compared to the tundra. And it does get fairly hot in the summer. Alaska's North Slope would be very cold and icy in the wintertime. Kentucky's temperature does get cold, but not that cold. So how do you think Cunnick can survive in Louisville, Kentucky? So I want you to think about that for a moment. How do you think she could survive in Louisville, Kentucky? So this is Cunnick's new home. More specifically, it's the Louisville Zoo. Zoos try to recreate animals' homes, and they are called exhibits. So the Louisville Zoo created an exhibit called Glacier Run. The zoo has tried to make an environment so Keenick can be happy. Now, Keenick, you can see Keenick in the picture and walking around on top, and I see things similar to what it would look like in the tundra. I see water. I'm going to predict that's cold water. I also see to where they have a lot of rocks, and they even have a certain color of rocks that represents maybe ice or maybe represents snow covered rocks. Okay, so I'm going to show you a video of Glacier Run. And I know when you logged in, you started the slideshow, it said watch this video first. That's the video you're watching, and you're fixing to watch another video about Glacier Run. But so what we're going to be studying during this unit is how animals must have certain environments in order to survive. In this case, the bear was moved from her environment to another environment. And so in Kentucky, for her to survive, they've had to create an exhibit that mimics the environment that she would have had in the tundra so that she can live a life happy for a bear. So we're going to get involved in this. We're actually, by the end of this unit, I'm going to have you all to recreate another exhibit that this bear could survive in. So it may be with toys at home, it may be with a drawing, it might be you may use three-dimensional objects. So anyway, we're going to explore the two different types of ecosystems, and we're going to look at some animals that live in both. We're going to figure out just exactly what polar bears need in their ecosystems to survive.